Welcome back to Black Swan Outdoors, and today we are going to talk about the evacuation loadout. Now, some of my kit-related videos are some of my highest ranking videos on my YouTube channel, and so obviously people like the gears kind of related stuff. So I'm happy to do that. So I'm going to do a few videos in relation to what I call escape and evacuation. That kind of dovetails into a series that I'll be putting out on Patreon. So this is just kind of a sort of a teaser to kind of get people interested in some of the information that I'll be sharing about escape and evacuation topic and kind of non-permissive environment travel. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about kind of the evacuation end of it in terms of packing, the type of things that on a personal gear that you would need. Now, this is for those that watch a lot of YouTube videos and kind of in this prepper space, and that will be very familiar with the bug out bag and how bug out bags are packed and what kind of things go in there. And there's always very consistent stuff that a lot of people put in their bug out bags and just kind of gets replicated. And this is not really what we're talking about at all when we're talking about evacuation. This is more in line with people who might be aid worker, or a working for an NGO, or anybody who might be working in an environment where evacuation may be possible or potential. And so the process here is this is not the packing list the stuff that you might have brought in country. This is more or less an emergency bag. So myself, and I can do a video on this if people are interested, I have myself a travel bag that I always keep ready. And it's prepared so that if you needed to go to a last minute funeral, or had to go to the hospital, you had to get away for the weekend, whatever it is, you already have a bag packed. It makes things a lot easier. So even just a simple holiday, it's ready to go. I have travel clothing that I only use for travel, that's set aside. And as I said, that is always just ready to grab. And so in the same vein, this is kind of how it would work. Now, if you were in country and you had to, if you wanted to, you could potentially repack your bag so that you had a go bag ready to go. So in a sense that you could just, when you get into country, you're there for a while, a few weeks, a few months, a few years, whatever it is, then you repack your bag, one of your bags, so that it is ready for an evacuation should that need to happen. So let's go through some of the lists, some of the things that you might want. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list. This isn't a mandatory list or the end-all be-all. This is just kind of the stuff that I would lay out, things to think about, potentially bring. It's pretty bare bones, and that is by necessity. So we want to make sure that what we have is as light as possible. So starting over here with the bag itself, I've opted for a duffel bag. This is very intentional. Duffel bags are a little bit lighter than some of your wheeled suitcases, and it's going to be a little bit more less rigid. And that way, if you need to throw your bag into the back of a truck, or it needs to be squished into the trunk of a car, whatever, that you have the capability of actually getting that bag inside. Whereas the larger, bulkier, more rigid suitcases are going to take up a lot more room, and they're going to be a lot heavier. So if you can opt for a duffel bag, I think that's going to be a little bit more amenable to this circumstances. Inside the duffel bag here, I've got a change of clothing and a hat. So socks, underwear, pants, shirts, a couple shirts. And so you want at least one change of clothing in there so that you have something to change into. while you travel. Now, one thing that you can do is you can take all of this gear here and separate it up into two components. So you could potentially have a smaller, lighter bag, something like a small backpack or a hip pack or something of that nature that you could carry with you as kind of your carry-on. So that would be the things that would be very important, things that you might need while you're, say, if you're on a flight out or a boat or whatever. And then your other bag could be potentially stored away if that was necessary, if that's what's needed. So you're going to want to be kind of familiar with the protocol, what's going to happen. Otherwise, you're just going to have one bag and you're going to keep that bag with you, and it's going to keep things a lot simpler. Okay, so next up here, we have our toiletry items. So we have in a plastic bags, as you can see. I'm going to get rid of as many pouches as I can. I don't want lots of pouches, lots of organizing pouches. They just add way too much weight. So I'm going to get rid of that stuff. Personally, I like those pouches. So I do have a lot of them, but in this instance, we want to get rid of what we can, again, to get rid of that weight. So a towel, wet wipes, or toilet paper, you could even use too, but wet wipes are nice because they're kind of multifunctional. Your toiletry bag, so shampoo, soap, floss, earplugs, all of that kind of stuff that you'd use for traveling, face masks, that kind of thing. Your prescription medications. I've got a thing of iodine. You never know if you're ever going to get, if you are going to need to treat water. So I always make iodine as something that I always travel with, even in a domestic situation. I've been multiple times in emergency situations within the United States and had to rely on iodine to treat water because we had boil rules. So it's always something I always carry regardless of where I'm at. Some food, high energy food, so I'm looking at power bars, protein bars. I do have some coffee and some other snack items as well, in case you did want to or could make yourself a hot drink. And then we have, from a navigation standpoint, we have GPS and a compass. And so ideally what you'd want to do is you want to preload all of your major landmarks and places where you need to go on your GPS in advance. So if you watched our video on operational maps, we have things like rally points, the airport, what else was there? There's a number of different safe houses or safe havens that are in the area. The entire route that you would want to travel, you want to put that into a GPS. That way, when there is an emergency, you just turn this on and it tells you where to go. And so you can get to those locations as quick as possible. Now, obviously, a GPS is battery operated, might not always work. So we always carry a compass. I always make that kind of standard. Even if I have a GPS, I always have a compass. You might not need a GPS in the situation that you're at, but like the iodine, I always travel with a compass because it helps you, at least with getting your cardinal directions. Even if you don't plan on going like hiking off the road or through rugged country, cross country. So compass is very important for travel. It's also a very useful tool for many other things as well, and it's got a magnifying glass, which is nice as well to have. So next up here we have batteries, extra batteries for your stuff. So radio, which we'll talk about in a second, radios rather, your GPS, headlight, all take the same batteries. I'm sorry, not the headlight, but the others. Headlight has its own, but it's LED light, so it lasts for a long time. So in this case, I've stripped extra batteries out of my my pack here. Okay, So aside from the batteries, the next thing we have are the next thing we have here is a radio. I've done a video on this. I've probably talked about it before. This is a shortwave radio, excellent for travel. It's a good general purpose radio. And the reason why I have this, the GP5 is what it's called from CountyCom, is that if you needed to, assuming you could have internet access, you don't have your cell phone with you, having a shortwave radio gives you the ability to understand what's going on around you. You can also use that while you travel to get news from back home. So it's a great travel option for some people. This particular model was actually designed for evacuations. The State Department would have HF radios placed in places, or at the embassy rather, and then people living outside of the embassy could tune into their radio and tune in this with one of these that does a single sideband, and they would be able to get the message about the evacuation. So they're not listening to broadcast radio, they're listening to straight from the embassy on a radio system that was off-grid. So it's in an emergency, if the broadcasts were taken over, they weren't able to get emergency messaging out, then they could do that through HF, and not all shortwave radios can capture HF radio frequencies, but the GP5 does, so it was designed specifically for that purpose. So that's a cool little radio there. Then I've got passport, money. I got money for both where I'm at, host country, and where I'm going. I've got passport, a little sleeve, RFID sleeve here with passport pictures, vaccine records, and that kind of stuff. Travel credit cards, extra ID, that kind of stuff. So I have two forms of ID with my passport. Notebook, always carry my notebook with me. Very helpful thing if you're interested in notebooks. I've got a whole series of notebook videos if anyone's interested. Talking about radios, and I do have a Baofeng radio in here. This more or less just kind of represents a handheld radio. It might not necessarily be a Baofeng. These are the cheap. These are all over the world now, cheap $35 radio. You can use it as a police scanner or a frequency scanner to get local radio and different types of frequencies in the area. So it's a nice kind of, provides a little bit of surveillance or intelligence of what's going on around you on the FM spectrum. It's lightweight, it lasts for a long time, they're pretty robust, they're very cheap. And the nice thing about these is that if you are working with an existing radio system, you can communicate with that system very easily and program those frequencies into this radio. Now, in certain situations, you might not want a handheld radio. It might be fairly suspect. In this particular case with the Baofeng, these are illegal in a few countries, so you want to make sure that you're not bringing in a illegal piece of electronic. You might be relying on your agency's radio, for example, instead of your radio, the one that you're issued. But for the video here, we have this as an example. You're going to want a charger with that. And then last is a computer. So if you have room and you can bring your computer with you, obviously you're going to want to do that, your files, all of your stuff. And so in this particular case, it's a backup computer that I have that I use specifically for travel to represent this. It could potentially be my main laptop. Water, I didn't mention. You want to make sure you have at least 1 quart or a liter of water with you. Of course, if you don't want to have standard water bottles, you could just throw in some commercial water bottles in there as well. That way you don't have to worry about carrying extra weight again. And then a well-stocked first aid kit. So you never know what's going to happen. You never know what kind of vehicle you're going to be in. Not all vehicles are going to be equipped with the first aid kit. So having a first aid kit will be helpful. So this is pretty much everything. Probably slimmed down a little bit on the first aid kit. Otherwise, very lightweight, very quick to grab, kind of a grab and go system, and that's the idea. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you got any questions, comments, or things that you might want to add or subtract, please put that down in the comments below. I'd be interested to know if you felt like there would be something in there. As I'm looking, I've just kind of noticed I forgot insect repellent or a head net, and sunscreen and chapstick, and an extra pair of sunglasses would be helpful. If you rely on eyeglasses or contacts, and of course you're going to want extras of those as well. In my case, my extra glasses are prescription sunglasses, so kind of 2 for 1, so to speak. So okay, so I probably rambled on a little bit too long, but hopefully you found this video interesting. Like I said, it kind of fits in with my escape and evacuation theme that we'll be writing about on the blog and Patreon. So if you're interested in this, check us out, and we'd appreciate any comments and likes and subscribes. Thank you.